The views and opinions on Unsportsmanlike Conduct are those of its host and guests, and do not reflect those of West Texas A&M University, KWTS, or any entity therein. This is KWTS, Canyon Amarillo, 91.1 FM, the station for your generation. You're listening to Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Welcome back to the 91.1, the station for your generation. This is the longest running show in KWTS history. We have some special guests tonight, but I'll get to that in a second. KWTS Sports Director Kayla Went, as always, joined by my two young, unproven rookies here, Anthony Miller on mic 3.
Who won the bracket challenge? I think this guy did.
That was the worst.
Right.
That was the worst one-liner you've ever done. You should be ashamed of that one.
I'm a champion. I can say whatever I want. I'm a champion.
And then also sharing with Anthony on mic 3 is Zach Sparkman.
Anthony picked Creighton to go to the Final Four, so I feel like that should eliminate him from
all consideration.
Yes.
That's a very good point. And then on mic 2, we have WT head football coach Mike Nesbitt. Coach, how are you today?
Doing fantastic today. How are you guys?
Pretty good, pretty good. And then we're also joined by former WT offensive lineman Craig Watts, who's actually a very familiar name on this show. Last time he came on, he tore me to shreds. So it was a lot for me to ask him to come back.
Oh, man, I'm happy to be here. And, if I have to stick it to you one more time, I will. So.
You keep me honest. I'll say that.
Hey,
you keep
man,
me
if
honest.
you're going to head this radio show, you got to be accountable. So
that's very true.
That's
See, you're giving me life experience here. So right now, we have two football guys here. We're going to talk some WT football. The WT Pro Day was a couple weeks ago. How did that go for you, Craig? You participated.
Well, first, I think it went well for everybody. All the guys that came out, I think everyone did a fantastic job. And I think it really helps our program to show that we had so many people not only come out and perform well, but do exceptional, especially at their respective positions. I think I did personally well. I mean, of course, I'm going to be a little biased towards my own performance, but especially for my position, the numbers aren't exactly the biggest indicator of your ability. I think I did well on my drill work when we went outside and did that, and I think that really helped me a lot. So I think overall I had a good day.
Now, is there any pressure going into a pro day? Like you said, numbers don't really add up for linemen, so you really have to nail the drills. Was there any added pressure onto you?
No, not so much. I mean, the only thing that was different, it's football, so it's not like they asked you to do anything you haven't been doing every single day for the last, especially here 4 or 5 years. So the only difference is, putting your hand down and doing it at a 3-point stance instead of 2-point stance, and that's just a small step from what I've been doing and I have ingrained in my head anyway.
All right. Now, Coach, how do you think the pro day went as a whole?
Well, as a whole, I thought it was an excellent showing by the bus for sure. You have 21 NFL scouts here. I think we had 15 more pro scouts here than Oklahoma did the day before, and Nebraska the same day. And so, I think what it's showing is we've got some top-tier talent players here. It shows we got some guys that can really show it and get after it. And what it also does is it's a great springboard for us in recruiting. It does some things in that end that really helps us. And then what it also does is it shows these guys that they can take this thing to the next level. And really what you saw out there was, like Craig said, you saw a bunch of guys really take some drill work, match it up with some film and some video over an extended period of time. Because really the pro day, all that is it's that last evaluation that a guy can see a guy and say, hey, the film doesn't lie. He can really play. He can improve. And he's got the ability. They wouldn't show up if we didn't have some guys with the ability. And so I really thought that they all did a good job. I thought Nathan Slaughter really helped his stock. I thought Dustin did a good job. Sergio and Kevin Van Voorst really did a good job with what their opportunity was, because those are some guys that are kind of unsung heroes in a little bit of that kicking position. So when you get those two guys that get a kick live in front of some other people, and that always helps. But overall, I thought it was a great day for us and for the players and the team and for the future of WT football.
Now, besides Craig, because I know you don't want to play favorites, but who really stood out in their pro day? Well,
the close number 2 to Craig. I mean, in all reality, and for the people that were in house, Craig and all the guys in the locker room that see him work out every day, it wasn't a surprise to us because we knew that he could do it. Was Nathan Slaughter, without a doubt. We've seen him jump and run and do the things that he's done, his whole career here. And when we recruited him, that was why we recruited him when we recruited him out of Lubbock High, is we saw some explosion and some fast twitch, and we knew that would transform into a guy that could be a player. And once he got that stage, there was no doubt that it was going to happen. So I would say, for the rest of the world out there that had seen Nathan play and the guys that came in to scout, that was probably the biggest surprise, the numbers he put up. But really, that was for the local guys, us in-house WT guys. We knew he could do it once he got that opportunity.
Yeah, Nate's one of those guys that every single day he makes you want to work harder. He doesn't bark. He doesn't, try to gloat himself or push himself up. But when you look at him work, he's got that work ethic. And personally, when we were at Pro Day, I had to go after him.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Well, luckily there was a guy between us, but everyone wins, especially on the vertical. He gets up there, they move the stick, and then, boom, 43 inches. And we're all like, oh, man, I got to go after that guy. Oh.
What was your vertical?
Me, I jumped a respectable 25, thank you.
Very nice.
But, there's a big difference between what a 25 looks like and a 43. If you ever seen a 43-inch in person, it looks like he's never coming off the ground, like coming out the air. He's just up there forever. So,
wow, that's pretty special. And now both of you this is a Division II program, so it's really hard to get top tier talent here. But yet we're excelling, and it looks like we could have several guys joining the NFL. How big is that for our program?
How overall, it's you don't want to say it's huge for the whole situation, but really what it is, it's just a constant building process. This group of guys that we brought in, we really, as a coaching staff 5 years ago, we really had that vision for this crew, that they were going to be the crew to push us past that first and second round playoff appearances and start stretching the season into the quarters and the semis and making a really legit run at a national championship. And that's what these guys did. This senior class has really put that stage, where everybody understands that hey, this is, it's a couple of recruits asked this weekend that we had in town, what's the vision of the program? And, our vision of the program is not to play in the first round anymore. I mean, our vision is to always be in the playoffs and make a run, deep in the playoffs. And the big thing with that is it's that steady growth. Now we can really sell the fact that this is an NFL type situation where you can come in either as a high school football player and be a farm raised guy that's been here for 4 or 5 seasons and make the move out, or you could be a junior college guy that needs 2 to play, or even a 1-year transfer guy looking for, kind of that hired hitman type status to come in and improve yourself and get out, because it's a reputation. And I think that's the big thing, is it's a positive reputation. And also, once you see guys stick, you get guys like Eugene Sims and Britton Golden and Stephen Burton and Charlie Martin and Jamarcus Webb. And, you go through the list of the last 8-9 years, there's not just guys getting to training camps. They're staying for 3 or 4 seasons. They're getting drafted like Keith Knoll, and they're sticking on rosters. We'll have a lot of guys in our league that'll send people to camp, and they'll be sent home after mini camp, and they'll be released. And then you look up and you got Kyrie Robinson, pushing the Seattle Seahawks in a playoff game and being a key back, and then they're releasing Darren Sproles to keep Kyrie and open up cap space for him. Well, that's one of our guys. And so that says a lot about our program, that not only can our guys play, but they can stick once they get to that level. They're not just a camp guy. And that's what you got to have. You can't just have a bunch of camp kids. You got to have guys that can really stick on the team and be a valuable player in the NFL.
Now, Coach, spring ball just got started. And looking at this pro day, we're losing a lot of key players here. How are we going to make that up? Who's going to step up next season?
Well, the big thing, what you're going to see is, you see a bunch of young guys. I think if you went out to the spring game Saturday, you saw a bunch of new faces playing in a bunch of positions. And the position everybody always asks about, because he's a central point, is that quarterback position. But in all reality, the whole interior part of our offense and our defense is really gone, except for some offensive line positions with some returners. You start at the back end of our secondary. You lose a guy like John McSheffrey and Curtis Slater. And then the interior guys, Taylor McCullough and Kyle Voss, all 4 of those guys are valuable players. They've been here for 5 seasons, played over 50-some games. And you start taking those guys away, it's not just that quarterback position that we're going to have some young guys fill in some spots. But I think we did a good job of recruiting. We redshirted a bunch of those guys last year that you saw in the spring game, and they played really well Saturday. The most I guess, exciting thing about that is it's a lot like when Craig and these guys were coming in as redshirt freshmen and they were having to take over, that 2009 season, 2010 season when Taylor Harris and Craig Watts and those guys all had to kind of take over when Keith Knoll and them all graduated, and everybody was kind of looking around, well, who's going to be the next group? And we made a good playoff run that year and had a really solid team. It's just going to be raising them and growing up as fast as you can. And that was what the whole emphasis of spring ball was. We went for 8 days before spring break, and then we knocked out 7 when we came back. And I know Craig has probably heard the rumors, but it was a really physical spring practice, and it was more like a training camp, more like a two-a-days type situation. We don't have time to wait for the 20-some days before our first game when we show up in August. We needed to push these guys now and pound a little bit and hit and be physical and on both sides of the football, not just defensively but offensively also, and find out where some players are going to be found for sure.
Now, Craig, as Coach just said, you were part of this team that went through a transition period. Mm-hmm. What's the mindset of a team when you lose some big guys and now it's your job? You got to be the guy that steps up.
There's a little bit of a quick growing up process because when you get here, you're the top of what you were doing before you got here. Then you get here, you have to, bide your time. And then eventually it dawns on you that, oh, now I'm the guy who has to go out on Saturdays and make it happen. And you have to grow up really fast. And like Coach was saying, back in 2010, and especially I felt like it was 2011 was a really big year. Going into my sophomore season, there were a lot of us that hadn't played. We had like 7 new starters on offense. And we had to really grow up fast and play, but we still went, successful. I think we finished 8-3 that year, or something to that note. So, this team's always going to be a good team that can, push for the championship. It's just a matter of if all the guys are willing to buy in and sell out, which I think they are, because they wouldn't be recruited here if that wasn't the case. And people ask me all the time, they're like, "Oh, what are we going to do about this new quarterback situation?" I just answer, once upon a time, no one knew who Dustin Vaughn was either.
That's hard to believe.
That guy, he was just a guy walking around, taking reps and getting what he could at practice. So, Taylor Harris left and they were like, well, who's the next quarterback? Well, we found one, So it just repeats itself. All of us run out of eligibility, and you just got to keep plugging the process and, change out the names on the placard.
Will there ever be another Craig Watts?
Maybe. There's some. First off, Craig Watts didn't think he would be Craig Watts, but there's a lot of the linemen, especially some of the young ones. I really like the current redshirt class. Dylan Vaughn, I think he's going to be very. The name sounds familiar, obviously. I think he's going to follow suit. I think he's going to be very good. And then there's some other guys that a lot of people might not know. Garrett Newman, I think he's going to turn out to be a heck of a player, as well as Joshua Keith. If they keep going the way they are, and all of them, I think a lot of those guys are going to turn out to be really good and be some impact players for this team up front.
Now, Coach, going forward this next season, like I said, we're losing a lot of guys. Losing Dustin. We're losing Terrence, Nathan, Craig. Who are you going to look for some leadership or the explosion? Who's going to make plays for you on offense next year?
Really, I think right now coming out of the spring, if the guys that have been out there and watched us play a little bit, Jeremy Watson had a heck of a spring. He really showed up as a guy that we've kind of always thought that, could be the next explosive player at receiver, can play all 4 spots out there. So he's going to be one. Jerry and Rome, we saw him a little bit. Hopefully Jerry can step up and be that next kickoff return guy for us and have some impact there on kickoff returns. He's going to have to, And so you'll see Jerry at the inside slot, and you'll see probably Jeremy Watson outside, and we could move him really to all 4 positions. But those are the guys right now. Jeremy Aldridge at running back. Wink had a good spring, played really well. And you don't really see how explosive Wink is until you stand behind him during scrimmages, and you stand back there and you're kind of playing that white hat as an official as you're coaching, but you're standing back there and you're watching him cut and dive in and out of holes and stick the toe in the ground, and you really saw some explosion. I don't want to jinx him and compare him to the other 2 guys that we've had over the past 4 or 5 years, but he is that type of player. We're going to have to find another guy to support him and help him through the recruiting process of the spring and summer. Hopefully Josh Woods has had a great recovery from his knee injury. We've held him out of spring practice, but he's done everything except contact drills, and he looks fantastic. And so I don't see anything holding him back from the injury at all. So I think we're going to be okay in that standpoint. So those guys are going to have to step up and really play for us for sure.
What about on the defensive side? I know we're losing Voss, we're losing Ethan Westbrooks. We're losing a lot of guys. Who's going to step up on defense?
Well, I was really pleased with our D-line this training camp. I thought John Sheehy really stepped up. And, coming in as a junior college guy, it's hard to play really fast when you just show up during training camp if you're a JC transfer. I think you got to be here all summer if you're going to have any impact. But saw John Sheehy play really well. And Tucci, interior, had a great camp, played great inside in Lapeer. And those guys right now, I think that group of defensive line is really stepping up and doing a good job. And I think you're going to see 2 freshmen inside linebackers, Anthony Walker and those guys that are going to surprise some people. I thought they had a great camp. But it's going to come back to the knowledge of the game. They haven't seen a lot of snaps, haven't played a lot in this conference, and they're going to see some great players on the field that they're playing against. And so they're going to just have to grow up every day. And secondary, Hunter Struhling had a good camp. Torian Oakley, Chris Caesar played well at the secondary. You saw those guys mature. We helped. Colton Harbert, he played really good. Thought he did a great job. He had some big hits in the scrimmage the other day. And so I think we're going to be in some really good spots.
Well, awesome. That's going to do it for our first segment here with Coach Nesbitt and Craig. When we come back, we're going to talk some WT sports. Oh, I was very rude. Zach or Anthony, do you have something to ask our special guest? Any questions?
I think you covered it.
Did I cover
well.
the bases?
Yeah, my main question was just the ones you just asked Coach. Who you see, stepping up in those key spots next
Taking
year.
the torch.
Maybe one question I have for Craig is with the pro day. We were kind of playing this scenario out. I guess it was a few shows ago. We were saying where we would like to see some of the WT players end up in NFL. If you could pick a team that would be a good fit for you, place where you would see yourself, where would you like to play at the next level?
Well, first off, I think the chance to, once you get to the point where you have the opportunity to play at the next level and fulfill a childhood dream to play in the NFL, any 32 of the teams would be a blessing and dream come true. So, and especially with the CBA, they all pay you the same anyway. So you really can't.
That's a good way to look at it.
You're just going to go somewhere, and it's wherever I think I can be the most helpful. I mean, there were teams that were like, oh, I'd really like to, I grew up a Ravens fan. I'd really like to be a Baltimore Raven. But now I'm just like, oh, if they can use me and I can, be of assistance to the team and work hard and, work towards that ultimate goal of the Super Bowl, then that's what I want to do. But there are some teams I could see myself really helping out quickly in, some more than the other. I think I'd really like to play down in Dallas. Dallas would be a nice place to play. Up in Seattle would be something I'd like to I wish I could get a shot at. But like I said, the difference between the top team I'd like to play for and the 32nd is nil. So any places.
Now we'll flip the card on this one. Coach, who would you like to see Craig play for?
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, personally, I'd like to see Craig have to play for the Steelers because that would be the worst thing for him to have to do. I'd have to see him have to wear that black and gold out there and because of all the trash I've heard him talk. I think Kansas City would be a good place for him to play just because of the diet there. He could hit a bunch of rib joints up and take care of himself. He might get back to his regular playing weight that he was here. He might not look as trim, but no, I think, that's the big thing. And there's several teams. Chicago's always treated our players really well. The Rams have. Over time. There's a couple other new scouts and GMs out there that have left some places like the Rams and Kansas City and Chicago that are working in different places that kind of have that D2 flair. I could see Tampa Bay start looking at some of our guys just for the simple fact of who they hired. As a head coach, Lovie Smith has always been kind of prone to Division II small school guys, that blue-collar type kid that's got some great talent. And so, it's kind of like what Craig said. There's probably 6 to 8 guys on our roster right now that graduated this past year out of that class that really deserve that opportunity to get a play that probably truly can play at that level. And so, and now it's just keep praying and hold that faith that, they get the opportunity. And when they do, they just got to run through the fence as fast as they can because that's all it is once they get that shot, because there's a lot of guys fighting for those jobs. Hopefully they can just keep doing it.
Absolutely. Anthony, do you have anything to add in here? Assistant Sports Director? I know the pressure's on now.
I know. I got to think of a good question. Well, I wanted to make a comment first, is that I've actually had a chance to play with Will Tolliver, who's on the football team. And also, I have played with Coach Nesbitt's son, Gavin, one year when he was in Canyon High. So my question, Coach, is where's my scholarship and when do I start?
Well, really, we could talk to Will. We could break up Wills. We could talk about Will. I could talk to Will tomorrow if you like Wills. We could do that.
Fantastic.
I think you lost your scholarship when you went with McBuckets to make it to the Final Four. But if you went A10 or Big East, because UConn does not count as a Big East team. So if you pick them, I don't know if you can use that anymore. But you went Creighton. I think you were living on Johnny McBuckets there or whatever, a little bit.
Fair enough.
But
fair enough.
You might have lost it right there.
Now, Anthony, I think they're always looking for water boys, though. Or towel boys.
I will be the best towel boy, best water boy you'll ever have.
I think I need that guy to do a little marketing for me is what I need. I need that guy on the internet.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for our first segment here on Unsportsmanlike Conduct. Big thanks to Coach Nesbitt and Craig. When we come back, we're going to talk some Buff sports. National Championship, Lady Buffs were there, and we'll discuss it a little later. So make sure you keep it tuned in to the station for your generation, the 191.1. Welcome back to the 191.1 station for your generation. This is two-time defending Show of the Year, Unsportsmanlike Conduct, right here on the One. We had, if you just tuned in, you just missed Coach Nesbitt, head coach for the WT football team, but we do have a former legend of WT. We have Craig Watson studio.
Yes, but without the legend.
See, that guys, that's what a one-liner is. He's going to be our judge, actually. So our one-liners, Craig, for those who don't know, every time we come in after a commercial break, when I introduce these two, they have to come up with a one-liner to impress the fans. And I judge each one.
So, it's kind of like a tagline?
Yes, kind of. Okay. I'll show you how it goes. On mic 3, we have Assistant Sports Director Anthony Miller.
So, Coach Nesbitt said that I have a chance to make the team.
He didn't say you didn't. So, yeah, you do have a chance to make the team.
I have a chance.
You could be the next Dustin Vaughn.
Just saying. I mean, I could make that team.
Minus the
Dustin
star. Vaughn.
Minus the stats and the natural ability, you could be the next Dustin Vaughn.
Hey, I was a pretty good scout team running back. Thank you very much in high school. Okay,
I thought you were going to say quarterback. You'd be like, I yelled Chekhov a lot. I was like, Omaha, Chekhov. And then also on mic 3, we have Zach Sparkman.
Hey, I don't see why y'all are saying, Anthony couldn't be Dustin Vaughn. I mean, have you seen his YouTube video? I think Anthony very much has an arm like that. That throwing motion, Anthony has that perfectly down.
Do you have a sweater like that, though?
I was about to say, that's the question.
I don't have the sweater, but you know what? That's why I like Zach more than you, Kaylor. Because of compliments like that.
All right, well, Craig, if you had to give it up, those are pretty bad one-liners, but who would you give it to?
First off, both of them were like
There were
statements.
stories.
Yeah. There was commas and semicolons. Yeah, these long run-ons. But I'm gonna give it. I'd give it to Mr. Sparkman over there.
Oh, Zach coming out with a win early.
I'm glad he went that way because I had a totally valid excuse. I was going to be like, well, Anthony got us off on the wrong thing. I had to elaborate.
Yeah, you
on
did.
What
Yeah, you had to work with what you were given. Anthony kind of put you in a
I don't need to take this. I'm the assistant sports director. Right? Whoa.
You were the assistant to the sports director. just kidding, Anthony.
I quit the show. I'm done.
His rant was kind of Mike Gundy-ish. I'm a man. I'm 40.
Man. So this past weekend was a massive weekend in WT sports, you guys. Not only did we have the number 1 softball team and the number 3, they moved up, the number 3 baseball team in action, but your Lady Buff basketball team was in the national championship game against Bentley University. It was a huge game. Everyone on campus was buzzing about it. It was a huge game. I unfortunately didn't get to see it. I was at softball. But your Lady Buffs, unfortunately, fall to Bentley 73-65. Now, you two said you both watched it. Craig, did you see any of this game?
Yeah, I did. Me and my roommate Mark, we went to the watch party. In fact, we left softball to go watch it, and then we returned back to softball because we are loyal fans.
Oh, I see.
But
so you saw the game, so we refer to you.
Yes, we did see the game.
Okay, so what happened, you guys? I heard we were up, we were winning, we went on some runs, and then the last 4 minutes it just fell apart.
Well, I think the problem was I can't remember who was doing the inbounding. But at one point, there was like 3 straight steals by Bentley, and it went from being like a 6-point lead to like a 2-point lead. And from that point on, Bentley was starting to make their shots. Sean White missed a couple of layups, and I think she got fouled out. I think Casey Land also got fouled out at the end. Mm-hmm. So it was just a matter of we self-destructed in the last 4 minutes.
So it wasn't that Bentley beat us. It was that we kind of gave the game away.
Yeah. Bentley stepped up their press. We really didn't have an answer for it. Yeah. We struggled. It was Devin Griffin who was doing the inbounding, and I think she struggled. She had, I think, 4 in total, 2 in a row. Twice got stolen and gave them easy layups. But even when we were getting the inbounds in, we were dribbling into traps, stuff like that, and really struggled to handle that pressure. We they forced us to use 3 timeouts and couldn't really get a good shot off after that.
I'm looking at the stats right now. Very interesting. Sean only played 13 minutes within the game.
Yeah, she
didn't get a lot of playing time.
Yeah, she got 2 or 3 fouls like early in the first half, and she sat for most of the first half. And what was kind of surprising though was I don't think she might have been in for a little bit to start the second half. I don't think so though.
She sat for a long time.
She went in with about 8 minutes left to go in the game. And that was the first time I think she went in the second half.
I think there was a lot of it was a really foul-heavy game. It seemed to me.
That's what I heard. The officiating was sketchy.
Yeah,
at most.
and it's it's a contact sport. It's not a collision sport. Like obviously it's not supposed to be too much contact. But they were, especially when you get to a championship game, you've got to let the players play some more, in my opinion. And every time you turned around, whistles are being blown. Everyone was in the bonus immediately. Like it just seemed that it was a little bit too. Handled with gloves rather than just letting the girls play.
Absolutely. Looking at the stats right now, Devin Griffin, as usual, led the team in points. She had 20. But someone who really stepped up, and I didn't get to watch it, but I heard it on the radio, was Madison McLean.
Yeah,
she didn't get a lot of playing time throughout the season, but she hits 3 huge threes in the game and had 9 points.
So clutch. Casey Land, I think, picked up her 4th foul and had to sit, and she went in, and out of 5 possessions, she made 3 threes. She was just feeling it. It was crazy. Like she hit the first one, everyone was like, "Yeah," and then she hit the second one, and a little bigger eruption at the watch party. And then when she hit that third one to give us the 9-point lead, everyone jumped out of their seats, and the place the roof nearly came off the banquet facility. It was pretty. At that point, I was feeling really confident. But she hit that last 3, and I think we went to a media timeout. They called a timeout, and that's when they switched to their press, and that's kind of when the wheels fell off. Was when it was looking best for the Lady Buffs.
And as disappointing as a loss as this is, the silver lining I'm looking at through this game is this is Coach Calloch's first year. He's got a lot more time left to do stuff. So once he gets his recruiting and his team in, who knows how far the Lady Buffs could go.
Yeah, this is the first time they've been to the national championship since 1988, and Kellogg was able to do that in 1 year with all the talent. And you got to give credit to Krista Gerlich, the former head coach.
Very true.
She recruited most of these players, and they've all come together, and they've done a great job buying into Kellogg's system. So it's been an incredible year for them.
Absolutely. So just a big game overall. And next season, it's going to be kind of interesting to see how he rotates the players, who's going to be starting. Mm-hmm. A player that I always thought has a bright future as a freshman is Madison Wild. Mm-hmm. The center from Australia, who actually, her dad flew all the way to Erie, Pennsylvania to see the national championship game.
That is almost from pole to pole.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's in Australia.
Jet lag.
Yeah.
He's just watching.
Someone did the math. It was Kelton Weens. I was talking to him. I can't remember how far he said. He said it's like a quarter of the way. Total distance there and back is like a quarter of the way to the moon.
That is unreal.
Yeah.
Wait, so the round trip was a quarter distance?
Yeah, to the moon. I didn't come up with the stat. It was Kelton.
Who even thinks to compare it to
That's
that?
what I said.
I understand getting the log, but then go,
okay.
I wonder what that's comparable to. That's the part that's killing me.
Kelton was precise. He had it down to the inches. He told us the inches.
He needs a new hobby is what he does. I saw him yesterday. He needs a hobby.
Well, he always listens to the show, so you might have heard you,
Well, if
Craig.
you're out there listening, you need to get a ship in a bottle or, a big puzzle, something.
So earlier I was also saying that the number 1 softball team, Lady Buffs, were in action this weekend. They were hosting, you can't really call them a rival. Tarleton's not our rival. Let's all get that out of the way. We're kind of above them. But we played Tarleton State this weekend, and we just absolutely dominated. We swept the series. Every single game was run ruled. Anthony, you were at 2 of the games. I was at the games on Friday, but you were at you were at one of the games on Saturday, correct?
Well, I watched both games on Saturday.
You watched both
I
games?
Called one.
You called one. Just Lady Buffs were killing it this weekend, just crushing the ball this weekend. Am I right?
Yeah, I think the lowest amount of runs they had in a game was like 9, and that was the first game.
And it was a 9-0 score.
Yeah, for the most part, it was just the offense putting up huge runs and pitching just doing the like basically the usual stuff for softball, just killing it with defense and offense. So I don't really know how to add on because Tarleton just flat out stinks. I don't know how else to put it.
Just flat out. I was talking to Coach Blaskowski today, and he goes, "Man, I can tell you for one thing for sure." He goes, "Tarleton does not want to come back here for a while." I'm like, well, of course. He goes, actually, to think of it, I don't think any team wants to come to Schaefer Park in a while. I'm like, well, probably, because I believe they're undefeated at home. Let's see.
17-0 at home.
Yes, they are. 17-0 at home. 4 run rules. This team, of all the teams that are playing right now, I think the Lady Buff softball team, or excuse me, I phrased that wrong. Of the past couple seasons in Lady Buff softball, this might be the most dangerous team we've ever had. And we've had some pretty dangerous teams, too.
Well, they already have 50 home runs on the year. And they have Rita Hokianga.
I know you
Hannah
struggle
Newcomb.
with that one.
I know. I always struggle with them. And Hannah Newcomb, basically the best pitching duo, I think, in not only the Lone Star Conference, but probably in the country.
And we also have Tori Bayer, out of the bullpen, who's phenomenal.
Yeah, I called the second game yesterday with Anthony, and I got there to at the first game, and she pitched the last 2 innings. She pitched she pitched the 4th and the 5th, and I was really impressed with her. I'm like, she's our 3rd pitcher.
Yeah.
And they got 1 run off of her, and I was like, that's our 3rd pitcher, and they still can barely touch her.
It's also interesting because softball is a game of rituals. You hear little chants, you hear little catcalling and stuff, and I've never seen a softball game before that. Before I came to WT, I've never seen a softball game. So my eyes have really been opened.
Wait,
by the
you've
Lady
never
Buff.
seen a softball game?
Yes. Well, I've never gone and seen. I didn't go watch my high school play.
Even men's slow pitch? You never watched?
Well, I play. Well, of course that. But I mean, I've never been to a girls softball game with all the rituals and they have chants and songs and stuff, and they catcall from the dugouts.
Yeah.
And they do little little handshakes and stuff. The nuances of the game.
Well, baseball is similar. They're both very superstitious sports. I'm just impressed how organized everyone is,
especially in all that chaos.
We can for football we can't even get a good defense collectively. Defense, no one can do that together. So for them to have one for everyone, and then a backup chant, it's man, you guys are. And you ask them,
you're like, you practice this? They're like, no. You're like, oh, come on, you have to practice it at some point.
Well, I know the football games, every time I called it, every time they do the WT fight song, they're always a split second late at the end.
It's always
WT, fight.
It's because the band gets it going, and the band doesn't wait for anybody. They keep the tempo faster and faster.
Yeah.
So it's funny to watch Maroon Platoon try to keep up with them.
They'd never have gotten that fight song right, and I don't think they ever will.
Yeah,
that's the tradition.
The clapping's off, and then nothing we do is coordinated very well. Even when the alma mater comes on, and we're doing we can't even synchronize.
Yeah, we
the
can't
left
go
and
the
right,
same direction.
None of that. Just do it. But then none of the stands think to follow them either. Yeah. So you're like, somebody.
Our fans have the rhythm of a Baptist church.
Just everyone's doing their own thing.
Yeah. As long as you're feeling it, though, that's really all that
matters. As long as you're supporting the teams, I guess it's okay. Then next to Schaefer Park and Wilder Park, baseball was hosting Cameron University on Friday night. We had Dylan James going, the ace, the 6-0. He has an ERA of about, I think it was 1.67. I can't remember for sure before the game. But they lose the first one 3-4, very disappointing loss. Then they lose the second game on Saturday, 4-11, and then they just hit a switch. I don't know what happened. They win the next 2 games, 9-4, and then today they won 13-6. So it was almost 2 different baseball teams were playing today this weekend.
Yeah, I got a chance to call Friday night's game, and I got to tell you that offense was really weak. I mean, Cameron went into this weekend at 9-15. And on paper, we should have blown them out of the water.
Yes.
They're not that good of a team. And just to see the way we played this weekend, I'm a little skeptical. And I think we've talked about this before on the show, is that we don't have any power hitters. And I think finally that was shown this weekend, that we did not have those power hitters. Now, they bounced back in the last 2 games against Cameron, but those first 2, it was scary. I mean, Dylan James pitched well Friday night, but he also made a couple of big errors that resulted in Aggies getting some runs. So I think this weekend was really an up and down for WT, and I think it was kind of a wake-up call to the baseball team.
Well, see, the games I saw, I think it's more of a pitching issue right now. I think they're kind of hitting a wall. I think they're all getting a little bit tired, stuff like that. And they're moving to a 3-man rotation coming up, so that's going to be kind of hard on the 3 starters. So we'll see going forward. Absolutely, I agree, though. We do have a lack of power. We've never been a team that hits a lot of home runs, though. We might have an individual who hits a lot. Like, I think with the last couple of years, it's been Parker Wood, but he never hit an incredible amount. He hit a lot for the team, but we've never been a big home run hitting team. I don't think that's going to affect us too bad.
Yeah,
too much.
Like, I don't think we really need that great power hitting. I mean, I'm looking at the stats right now, and out of the 9 people that were in the lineup today, only 2 of them have a batting average lower than 300. So I think, and what we saw in the game today when they had that 9-run third inning, they hit 1 home run, and they, still had 9 runs just because they have 1 through 9. It's really no breaks. The catcher, Hargrove, has a 250 average, and Beto, the second baseman, has a 270 average.
Yes.
And, I mean, that's we were looking at the Cameron stats, and their cleanup hitter is hitting 269.
At best, yeah.
And so it's just we have a lineup.
In his defense, he hit 3 home runs this weekend, too.
So, I mean, we have every single one of our guys can hit the ball. So I think that absence of power it might hurt us some games, just because we don't have that one guy who can turn things around with the one swing of the bat.
Right.
It's more of a collective team effort. But that's the thing. If you have 4 or 5 guys on each night, each game, it's better than having that one big power hitting guy.
Right. So that's going to do it for our Buff Sports segment. When we come back, we're going to do basketball. We're going to kind of mix the bracket, March Madness, into the NBA update. And Craig, I have a retaliation text from Kelton Weens. Here it is. Kelton says, a little over 10,000 miles one way for Madison's father. So I was wrong. More than 53 million feet, 635 million inches, 40% of the circumference of the Earth, and 4% of the distance to the moon. And in his defense, it took him 3 minutes to find that on Google.
Okay, so I'll need to know that he didn't calculate this out himself. This was
listed
listed somewhere.
It was Google. Like he had to find the distance that her father traveled.
Right. So, but he didn't sit down with a calculator. I just pictured like a TI 83, silver edition, and he's just got like a visor, and he's writing notes.
He's
frantically
crunching stuff. He's got one of those old crank calculators.
Yeah, he's got the one that spits the receipt out that comes with it. He's got, looking like a tax accountant.
So as long as we cleared the feud, the unsportsmanlike conduct feud between Craig and Kelton. So when we come back, we're going to talk basketball. Make sure to keep it tuned in. We would like to thank our underwriter, Premier Community Management. Premier offers a variety of services for homeowner associations across central Arizona and can be found online at premieraz.com. When we come back, basketball right here on Unsportsmanlike Conduct on the 191.1 station for your generation. Welcome back to the station for your generation, the 191.1. Right now, this is on Sportsmanlike Conduct. We're taking a selfie. We should have that Let Me Take a Selfie song, that Aaron Blair's walk-up song. We're in studio right now with NFL hopeful Craig Watts. He's taking a selfie.
Oh, you're just too kind. Yeah, I did that. First, let me take a selfie.
So Craig's in here. And then, of course, on mic 3, we have the 2 bushy-eyed rookies in Zach Sparkman.
Would I rather be feared or loved? Both. 'Cause I want people to be afraid of how much they love me.
That was a good one. I liked it. And then we have Anthony Miller.
An adult human has 32 permanent teeth. This number includes 4 wisdom teeth. However, 35% of people's wisdom teeth do not develop. There's your fact of the day. Thank you very much.
That was a good one. I learned something new about teeth.
My wisdom teeth did develop, and I got them removed, therefore meaning I have 28. What do you got to say to that, Internet?
Proving everyone wrong. So before the break, we were talking Buff Sports. Lady Buffs were in the national championship for basketball. So right now, obviously, March Madness is going on. And, of course, like everybody else, all brackets have been busted, correct?
Not mine.
Yes,
not
yours
mine completely.
yours has been busted too,
Yeah,
Anthony.
I got 2 of the Final Four.
50%? Is that what we're rewarding?
That's better than everyone else who's got like 25 or 0%. So I'm taking it. I'm taking it as a small victory.
You have 50%? How did you win?
Yeah, because the rest of us had like 35 or 30.
I have on
It,
my...
and ours, it's us, and then we have Seth Styles, Miguel Benavidez. I don't know if Kelton means Johnny, Zach Barnes, pretty much people from this hallway, and we're all just terrible,
I have 73.8% correct.
Oh, and
I
yet
have
he's beating you.
86.8%.
Oh, aren't you two special? So anyway, we've seen some pretty big upsets this whole tournament, but the big ones from this past weekend, we saw Florida beat Dayton, which wasn't the upset. Dayton's Cinderella story just got snuffed out, though. The big one, though, was Wisconsin beating Arizona last night. Absolutely massive game. I thought they blew the call at the end. I don't know if you guys saw it. Nick Johnson went into the paint and just got they called him for a charge, and they turned the ball over. And this was in key, I think it was 32 seconds left in the game. So they called the worst possible time. Anyway, they go to overtime. Wisconsin pulls it out. They're in the Final Four. First time, I think, 20 years or someone said like that on ESPN. I don't know for sure. And then today we also had Kentucky. They beat Michigan 75-72 on one of the most clutch threes you will ever see.
Aaron Harrison nails a huge 3 with a hand in his face with like 2.6 seconds.
I'll be honest, when I was doing my brackets, I didn't have Kentucky going very far, and I regret it now, as everyone does.
Last week, I totally ripped on John Calipari.
Yes,
and
you did.
Not
That's
think
what
they
I
were
was
gonna
bringing
make the
it
Final
up.
Four, so now I have to eat my words.
Eat
Calipari,
crow.
I got to give him his credit. He's done a hell of a job with this team, putting all these freshmen together
And they didn't-
getting them into the Final Four. I'm shocked.
They didn't have Willie Cauley-Stein either.
I know.
So if they can, I think they have to have him, though, for the next game against Wisconsin.
His replacement, though, had 5 putback dunks.
Did he? Oh, did he
Like,
really?
Michigan had no answer. Free or
Marcus Lee.
Marcus Lee. But I mean, Michigan, like, they'd go up and shoot it, and they wouldn't seal off the backside, and he just every time with the putback dunk. I mean, it was so frustrating to watch. Like, when are you gonna figure out, put a body on this guy, box him out?
Absolutely.
An interesting, interesting fact about Marcus Lee: he did not play any minutes in the first 2 games. He played 1 minute in the last game, and then today he puts
got
up
the
10
start.
points.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And then the other Cinderella story coming in is UConn. They beat Michigan State today 60-54. So your Final Four right now is Florida versus UConn, Wisconsin versus Kentucky. Who do you guys have for each game? Well, we'll go first game. Who do you have in the Florida UConn game?
I think Florida. Shabazz. This will be an interesting matchup. Shabazz Napier and Scotty Wilbekin.
Yes.
Ultimately, though, I think Wilbekin is able to at least slow down, if not stop, Napier. And even if Napier can slow down Wilbekin, Florida just has too much else going. Don't know how to phrase that sentence. Too much going for it. So I think ultimately Florida will advance.
Anthony, who do you have?
I'm not gonna lie. I went into this tournament having a man crush on Doug McDermott, but now Napier might be my new man crush.
We all wanted to like him.
I love him. I think if I had to compare, a lot of people compare him to Kemba Walker. I think he's done a better job than Kemba Walker does in his college career. In his college career.
We'll have to see. Kemba Walker won a title. Yeah. So we'll have to judge it at the end.
But I love Florida's defense. They're not a big offensive team, but their defense is one of the best in the country, and I think in the end that's what's going to do it. And plus, I'm still riding on Florida winning the national championship, so I'll go Florida with the win here.
Florida. And we're also joined by Mark Waller. Mark, who do you have winning this game between UConn and Florida?
I watched Florida play last game, and they were very impressive to me. Their athletic ability and able to get to the hoop, no matter what the other team's doing, and I just don't think they could be stopped.
Absolutely. Craig, who are you going with?
I'm probably going to go with Florida. The big thing about Florida, I mean, with my little bit of basketball knowledge, they're good throughout from, the front 5 to off the bench. So at any point, they're going to have 5 really athletic, capable scorers and defenders on the court. And as the game wears on, they're going to just outmatch you. So I'm taking Florida.
Absolutely. I really want to take UConn, though. I want to root for the Cinderella story.
You know, I want UConn simply because I have the UConn girls winning.
Oh, okay. Well, they win every year. I mean.
Right. So, but they do. But I still want, like, the whole, you know, hey, we both won everything. I want that to happen.
Absolutely. I'll go with Florida. I don't want to be the only one in here. Peer pressure got to me, you guys.
And elaborate off of
that is not what you want to tell the children. Come on.
Just fall into peer pressure. It's what the cool kids are doing.
Yeah. Be like everyone else.
As last year when Louisville won it and their women got second, one of my friends from Shallowater tweeted, Shallowater was winning basketball in men and women before it was cool. Back in 2004, Shallowater's boys and girls team both won the 2A state championship.
Oh, wow.
Okay, there's like 9 teams in 2A, so I mean, when you're running like a 10% chance at both sides, you know, the odds are kind of in your favor.
But
really, are there any 2A basketball powerhouses in West Texas?
Hey, they played Argyle in the state championship.
Ooh, isn't that like a
sweater?
Yeah. I believe that's a rare element. I learned about it on the periodic table.
It was just a rack. It was just a rack of sweaters they rolled out on the court. And then they still scored 2. The other game is number 2 Wisconsin taking on the 8 seed Kentucky. This is the game of the 2 hottest teams in the tournament. Personally, it's a toss-up. I think if they don't have Willie Cauley-Stein, I don't see them be able to stop Frank Kaminsky, that dominant center from Wisconsin, who a lot of people didn't know about going into the tournament, and he tore up Arizona. So I'm going to go Wisconsin, though. I'll stick with them. Who else?
Man, this one's really tough because after what I saw from Kentucky today, I really love watching them play.
Yeah.
The Harrison brothers are really good. I think Marcus Lee really stepped up today, but Wisconsin's perimeter shooting might be the best that I've seen from them ever because Wisconsin, being in the Big Ten, they're more known for playing good defense.
Yes.
So seeing the perimeter shooting,
it's a tough one.
No, I'm going to give the edge to Wisconsin. I think they barely win over Kentucky. But I will give Calipari his respect. I think Kentucky's going to fight really hard in this game.
Zach, who do you have? So we have 2 Wisconsins.
I think Kentucky.
Kentucky.
I'm not a big Kentucky fan, but the Harrisons with Randall, Cauley-Stein, if he's healthy, I think it'll just be too much. But you can't overlook Frank Kaminsky, the 7-footer.
He's got moves.
He's like Kevin Durant almost. I mean,
he is.
He's 7 foot.
I would say Kevin Love.
Okay, yes.
Just because he shoots the 3, he's a big guy in
Saying
the
just
paint.
because he's white, though? Got to compare him to the white guy?
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, just their games. Their games
Kevin
alone.
Durant weighs about 19 pounds.
So pretty much if you just cut off his leg, that's Kevin Durant.
There we go.
And who'd you pick? You said Kentucky?
I said Kentucky. But I'm rooting for Wisconsin, so I hope I'm wrong. Kind of like the Super Bowl, though. But we saw how that worked out.
Yeah, it was very embarrassing for you. Mark, who do you have, Wisconsin or Kentucky?
I've always been a fairly big Wisconsin fan. I like that entire campus in general, but I think Kentucky has more of a history of being a powerhouse. And
very true.
They've been there before, that kind of saying, and I think that experience kind of just prevails. And I don't know. I hope I'm wrong, but that's what I believe is going to happen.
And Craig?
We have a race war on hands between Wisconsin and Kentucky. But, I do like the way Wisconsin's playing, but I'm going to go with Kentucky.
Kentucky? It should be either way you slice it. This should be a very interesting Final Four. I can't remember the last time the March Madness was this mad. Like, it's never been this crazy within the last couple of years.
This has been one of the best tournaments I've watched in a long time.
Exactly.
There's
It's
been
entertaining.
So many close games, so many overtime games. I mean, like the first day or two, there was like 7 overtime games, which is like the most ever.
There wasn't even that many. I think there's been like 2 or 3 blowouts.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Like
Creighton was one. As I look at Anthony in his soul.
I don't care what anyone says. Doug McDermott is a beast.
If it makes you feel better, my dad called me and he asked who I picked, and I told him Arizona. My dad's an Arizona State graduate. Almost, he was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I got to go with them." And then I'm like, who do you have? He goes, I have Florida over Creighton in the finals. So as soon as Creighton lost, I'm like, that was a really good pick. And then, of course, last night I was like, I'm waiting for the call still to brag about Arizona losing.
I don't care.
He
I
wants you
love
to
Doug
sweat.
McDermott. He's still a beast.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, good player, but
Very
come
true.
across them Bears.
I think the only thing that this tournament is missing is like a half-court buzzer beater as time expires.
You never know. We
Yep.
still have a couple games. There's 3 games left.
I was texting one of my friends when the tournament started, just talking how crazy it was, and I said that, and he apparently him and Anthony had been talking. Said, "Watch, Doug McDermott's going to do it in the Final Four." It's a little bit wrong on that, but I still think maybe Comiskey's going to knock one down on Saturday.
You never know.
Only slightly, right?
I don't want to see a half-court buzzer beater. I want like a 9 overtime game. I want it to just be real. I want it
People
stay
are
up till
passed
3
out.
o'clock in the morning.
Like Kentucky and
being-
Syracuse a few years back.
They're picking people out of the stands
Yeah,
to play.
it's
They're
down
like
to
you.
2-on-2, and they both are severely dehydrated.
No medical attention. That's the rule.
No, you play to the death.
So
It's madness.
we'll move from March Madness over to the NBA real quick and do the update. We're looking at the playoff picture right now. In the East, this is probably what's going to be in the playoffs. It goes Pacers, the Heat, Raptors, Bulls, Nets, Wizards, Bobcats, and then the Hawks. The Knicks are only a half game away, though, behind the Hawks, so they could make a push in. And then in the West, right now it goes San Antonio, the Thunder, Clippers, Rockets, Trailblazers, Warriors, the greatest team in the NBA, and then the Grizzlies.
Can we give some respect to the Spurs now? I really hate how ESPN is never talking about them, but
It's because
always talking about the Heat.
they're not the sexy
No
team.
one wants
biased.
to watch the Spurs.
They're not
won
the sex. They're
17
not the
straight.
sexy
They deserve
team.
some love now. They are the best team in the NBA right now.
You know, you couldn't pay me to watch a Spurs game from start to finish.
You don't want to
It's
see
a clinic
Tim
on
Duncan?
fundamentals, bounce passes, and bank shots.
And good screens.
Yeah, good. Yeah, pick and rolls. Yeah, it really is.
So right
They
now,
could, they would warm ups the whole time.
It's almost like watching a women's game, really.
but that's
It's very, and no one is going to jump out the gym and 360 slam it, which what the Heat will do. And you're going to see some nice dunks, but nothing about the Spurs says flashy. Even they wear black and white.
the most most boring color scheme you can have.
Does anyone remember the old Cabana colors though? Remember that?
Oh yeah.
The Fiesta colors
From the ABA whatever.
No, they had it up until before the SBC Center was built.
Oh really?
Yeah, when they were still playing in the Alamo Dome. They
Oh,
used to
wow.
have on the court it was that green, pink, and orange.
Oh yes,
Oh,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
remember
yes.
that?
Yeah.
The most that is just horrible.
That was the last time they were remotely exciting.
So right now, looking at the playoff picture, the only big shift I can see is maybe Dallas sneaking in. They're
Have a chance.
a half game behind Memphis right now. Besides that, I really don't see anybody from the East charging in. The Knicks, everyone's like, oh, they got Phil Jackson. They're all a whole new team. No, they still are pretty bad.
Burn.
They are. Like, if you look right now, if Memphis, who is the 8th seed in the East, would be the 3rd seed in the or they're the 8th seed in the West, they'd be the 3rd seed in the East, and they would be a dangerous team in the East.
It's the East is in shambles.
How about my Sixers?
I was
blowing
just
an
about to say
opportunity
it.
to make history, and of course they have to blow out
You-
the Pistons by almost 30
They
points.
didn't do the what were they going for
They-
most
the
consecutive
most
Tied the
consecutive
record with
losses.
26, and then they go to Detroit Saturday night and
And
blow
kill.
them out by over 25
They
points.
killed the
Yeah,
Pistons.
wait, what was the record again?
The record would be 27 straight losses, and they tied the Cavaliers for 26.
They might want to call Allen Iverson back.
This is how bad the 76ers
I know,
are.
they're so bad.
They
They can't
can't
even get the
even. They
record
can't
for
even
it.
be the worst losing team.
I hate the Sixers.
They can't
so
be the
much.
best
I don't
at
know why
anything.
I still cheer for them. I really hate watching them. They
How
can't
are
get
you-
anything right.
How are you a Sixers fan? Is
He's
that
from-
just-
he's
I was
from
born in
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, so
That's
I
it.
cheer for all Philadelphia teams.
Is that just out of national pride? Like, oh, 76ers. Yeah. Also a Patriots fan.
So I was about to bring that up, but are the 76ers team, are they the worst team we've seen in the NBA in history? They're pretty bad. I will say
The
no.
Bucks are still worse.
That's
The
what I was going to
Bucks
bring
still
up.
Only have 14 wins. Sixers have 16. So
The
I guess we can't say
76ers
they're the worst, but they're definitely top 5.
The
They gotta be top
76ers
five.
lost 26 straight games, and they're still not the worst team in their conference.
What about years ago? Was that the
Bobcats,
Yes.
yeah.
They were absolutely
They won 7 games.
That's true. Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah.
But they never won. They never lost 26 straight.
Like I think wasn't the Bobcats? Was it the lockout season though?
Ooh,
Yeah, that was-
yeah.
So-
So does that
but-
even
Oh
count?
yeah, so
Yeah.
they would have got 8 if they played a full regular.
Yeah, they had
We
the
robbed
lowest,
'em.
the lowest win percentage of any team to ever play.
Like they were going to turn it around that last 20 had they had played them.
Yeah, they did
We
them
were
a
just warming up.
They did them. They did them a favor by only playing 66.
Yeah, right. It's like the old mercy rule. Okay, just go home.
Just go home. Then the other big news coming out of the NBA was Kevin Love said this offseason if he does go to free agency, he would like to go to a big city market and listed the Knicks and the Bulls as teams he would like to play for. Does he go to one of those teams?
Well, he's definitely not going to the Suns, apparently.
Yes, he
but-
will. He's going to be a
No,
Sun. Just
he
kidding.
said,
No.
He said big
The
city.
Suns have a whole new scheme. They're going to get Gordon Hayward and then draft Doug McDermott, and we're going to be like the Wisconsin of the NBA.
So what 2 teams did he say? He said the Knicks
Very
and the
true.
Bulls?
He said the Knicks and the Bulls because he wants to play for a big market or a big city team.
I don't know if Phil Jackson's going to go after him. I feel like the Bulls might
I
have a
would.
slight better chance because they'll probably spend more money on him than
They'll
Phil
probably
Jackson.
get rid of Carlos Boozer. I would think.
You still got
who was-
to compete with Joakim Noah.
Who was?
Well,
it,
I mean,
though?
you could have Noah at the center and then have Love in the power forward. You could have a dominant Twin Towers.
If they can afford him, but
That's very
you gotta
true.
understand D Rose is still going to come back, and as we've seen, this whole one of the things people always try to, critique Miami about is, oh, they went out and bought this team. Well, clearly that doesn't work.
Well,
because if you
it's a
look at
$1 million
Brooklyn,
business. You have to
you
spend
look at
money.
Brooklyn,
Yes.
that doesn't work. You look
No.
at New York. Clearly, this whole putting superstars to get even LA struggled.
Oh, yeah.
Both LA teams are struggling to do so.
Yeah.
So I think it's more of a factor of where he can win in a big market rather than just being in a big market.
Very
So
true.
With all those superstars in Chicago, and they have a good role playing system. I don't think they can. I don't think they can benefit from having another leading scorer.
Very true. And that's the case for why he should go to Phoenix.
Yeah, with the brothers.
See, Craig went to Phoenix. He saw the light and he moved to Phoenix.
We almost went to a Suns game because
You should. No one goes.
I wanted to see. They were playing the Clippers, and I wanted to watch Blake Griffin, but it was like a Tuesday.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
had to be up early on Wednesday, so we didn't go. But man, hey, I see what that AZ
See?
thing's all about.
Craig seen the light?
I have, man. It's
Yeah. Arizona, the main thing that I was impressed with when I went there over spring break was it is a clean city.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's like no trash anywhere.
Right.
And we're in
Phoenix. He went for spring training for spring break.
because Phoenix has got that old like back when they were building cities out west and they just blew up. That's how Phoenix was. It was nothing, and then one day we're like, "Hey, you guys want to make a metropolis?
They're like,
all right,
"Yeah."
build it now." And so, yeah. We didn't have the technology till recently to even make that place habitable, so it blew up, and all the trash is spontaneously combusted in the heat.
See, this is why I love the show. We'll start off on a topic and just get sidelined and like go down the most random route
That's
of
my
thoughts.
adult ADD speaking.
Back to the Kevin Love thing, though. You mentioned Chicago. The main talk, though, was Derrick Rose was going to recruit Carmelo Anthony to go to Chicago.
Yes, and Joakim Noah at All-Star Weekend tried to recruit him.
Derrick Rose and Carmelo on the same
Yeah.
team.
No one will pass the
shoot.
ball. Yeah.
No one else will ever shoot.
Oh,
Well, I mean, can Derrick Rose even stay on the court long enough to
Ooh,
give it to
burn.
Carmelo Anthony?
he'll bend
He's
over
like
to
the
tie
Bob
his shoe and
Sanders
he'll
of the
tear his
NBA.
ACL.
I bet
Great
you won't tweet
talent,
him,
but
though.
never steps on the court.
I bet you won't tweet him, though. I bet you won't add him.
Anthony, we'll try to get Derrick Rose on this show.
Sanders, man, that was smooth.
So that's pretty much it for our basketball segment. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll do our favorite segment, the Sunday Punch, hardest hitting segment in sports. Before we go to break, we'd like to thank our underwriter, Premier Community Management. They offer a variety of services to homeowner associations across Central Arizona and can be found online at premieraz.com. We'll be right back with more on sportsmanlike conduct right here on the station for your generation, the 191.1. Welcome back to the 191.1 station for your generation. This is the number one show in your hearts on sportsmanlike conduct, longest running show on KWTS. I am sports director Kaylor Wendt. I am your host. On mic 3, we have Zach Sparkman.
Caught me off guard. so chalk this round up to Anthony. But I'm going to repeat an oldie but a goodie. I will never call you sports director, even if there's a fire.
2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, you get boo.
I led into that saying I'm going to repeat one.
Boo. And then we have Anthony Miller.
My tongue's bleeding, guys. Can I go to the nurse because it really hurts right now?
That was a weird. I didn't like that one.
No?
Hold on, is this a serious medical problem? Because, I mean, we don't want you to bleed all over the place. Really.
This is nice
It's just
carpet in
bleeding
here.
a little bit, but
Oh, that's awkward. I thought you were
I'll push
joking. And then on mic 2, we have former WT captain Craig Watts.
Hello, everybody.
And Mark Waller is on also.
Good to be here.
See, Mark had the best one. He kept it short and simple. Mark wins that round. So we're going into our favorite segment on the show. It's the Sunday Punch, and I'll turn off the mic so that Craig and Mark can hear the awesome entrance I made for it. So here we go. See, Craig was doing the word. He was talking along with it. It's a good one, right?
Man,
and especially when you put it over that epic fight music.
Yeah, man, Muhammad Ali's one of the best athletes ever.
And he gets you jazzed.
He's he's admirable because he's going to say what he wants to say.
Very true.
Which a lot of people, obviously you want to make the right moves for yourself, but when you have someone who's willing to do it at all costs and doesn't care what someone thinks, that's something to strive for.
That's very huge. Who wants to go first with their Sunday Punch?
I guess I will, since we just finished up our talk about the NBA and now doing my Sunday Punch about it. And my punch is the different in quality between the East and the West Conference. I was reading an article, I think Bill Simmons, and they did an NBA Sweet 16. It was kind of, a preview for college having their Sweet 16 on Thursday.
Right.
And of that, there were 2 teams
from the East.
The Heat and the Pacers. The rest were from the West. The 16 seed was the Timberwolves, who lost it on my phone. Was the Timberwolves, and they were playing the Spurs. Now, so I mean, the Warriors, the Timberwolves, the Suns, the Grizzlies. Those are 4 teams. I think 2 of those or 3 of those won't make the playoffs in the West. Yeah. Whereas we're going to see the Bobcats and we're going to see
the Hawks. Maybe the Knicks.
And the Raptors right now are, I think the Raptors might have been in that.
They're respectable. They're respectable.
The Raptors are 42-31. I think they might have been the 15 seed.
Right.
But yeah, the Knicks are only a half game out of the Hawks. And then you have the Bobcats and the Wizards, who are under 500. And then in the West, Mavericks and the T-Wolves are 14 games over. Yeah. They would be the 3rd best team, and they're out.
That's what I was saying.
Yep. And the Grizzlies and the Suns and the Warriors would easily. The Warriors have a better record than the Heat, and they are only 2 games. There's only 2 games separating them and the Mavericks.
Right.
So I just think, there's nothing you can do about this issue. And I'm sure there will be years where the East is better than the West. But come playoffs, you want to see the best basketball teams get a chance to play for the title. It'd be stupid if they went based on, what conference you were in. And it's like, oh, sorry, Baylor, you got 4th in the Big 12. You can't play. You can't play, but don't worry, we'll let
some little school,
Cal
Poly.
Yeah, we'll let Cal Poly in, just because they won their conference. It's the best teams. Pretty much.
You show up.
They have snubs, like SMU and stuff, but I want to see the best teams in the playoffs. I don't want to see teams that are 15 games below 500 getting beat by the Pacers or the Heat for 4 games.
Right. See, I like that. That's a very good one. I just got a text request from a couple fans. Craig, they want to know if you have a Sunday Punch. Is there anything in the world that makes you just want to give it a Sunday Punch?
Elaborate on what exactly.
A Sunday Punch is a rant about something that, usually we do it about sports because we're a sports talk show. It's just something you rant about, something you think is unjustified.
35 rants a day. So, sports related wise, I guess I'll just piggyback yours. I do appreciate the that you're right. There might be, let's say, the third best team in the division might have beaten or be better than the first in other divisions, but still miss out on a chance. But that's what makes rivalries and what makes the ferocity of inter-divisional rivalries so, important. Now, I think when you reach a professional level, the whole divisional thing doesn't really matter as much. You do it in college and the lower levels because of proximity. But professionally speaking, you're right. I think it should be kind of an at-large system. But, that's kind of the breaks. I, as a Mavericks fan, I do think that I would like to see them in. But you can't finish 8th on your side and just go, well, we're better than the other guys. Be better than everyone. That's what it's about. So
that's a very good one. That was a good. That was a good promptu one.
Oh no! How about that? While Anthony's going,
that's a very good one. Anthony.
My Sunday punch is on parents who videotape their kids crying about their favorite players getting cut. I'm sick and tired of seeing it. When Steve Smith got cut, I guess the father videotaped his son crying over the fact that Steve Smith got cut, and he's like, "Oh, you can cheer for Cam Newton." He's like, "No, I just want to cheer for Steve Smith."
I hate Cam Newton.
And then today, I saw a video of a fan crying over Deshaun Jackson. It was not me. That's a different video.
I'm like, was that a selfie?
No, a different one. But another kid was crying over Deshaun Jackson. And for these parents, obviously they don't care about their kids because obviously all they care about is views on YouTube.
First of all,
that's insensitive.
First of all, who's crying over Deshaun Jackson?
I cried a little bit, but that's beside the point. The point is, parents don't care about their kids. Obviously, they only care about views on YouTube. And for me, that's disgusting to see as a person, to see parents treating their kids like that. You shouldn't videotape your kid crying because no one likes to see a kid cry.
Right. I do, as long as they're not near me. Just don't be in the room crying.
Now, I saw a funny video of a father videotaping his child crying. It's where it was a son and his 2 daughters, and they were telling them the gender of their new baby coming up. And it was it was a cake, and they sliced the cake. If it was pink, it was a girl. Blue, it's a boy. And the boy does it, and it's a pink cake, and he freaks out. He goes, "I'm sick of girls." He goes, "I'm sick of them." And the dad goes, "You love your sisters, right?" He goes, "No, I hate them." And he's just screaming out how he hates girls and he wants a brother. I'm like, the poor kid.
Are great because they have no filter.
Yeah.
And they say the most hurtful thing.
They're the truth, though.
Sometimes they go overboard. Like, you could like, "No, you can't have the toy today. I hope you die." Like, what? Over a Transformer? Come on.
It's Megatron, man.
Yeah, kids are great.
It's like what Craig was saying during one of the breaks. Man, what you see is what you get.
Very true.
I'm not going to hide anything. That's how kids are.
Yeah, that's how kids are. It's like, I'm going to tell you how I feel right now. And they're so irrational, like, "Oh, I can't have cake? Okay, I'm going to hold my breath until I pass out." Okay, who's that going to hurt? Have fun waking up off of that. Good. I'm not going to talk to you. Good. I've been waiting for that.
Finally.
My favorite part, though, in that Steve Smith video is his sister.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
the kid freaking out. And he's like, they say we're gonna cut Steve Smith, and she's like, "Yay! Now I get to root for Cam Newton." He's like, "I hate Cam Newton." And they're like, "What about Luke Kuechly?" "I hate him too. I love Luke Kuechly."
That's a cold
dude.
right
He
there.
just cut the whole Panthers out of his heart. He doesn't care.
Yeah, he's over here taking selfies with Steve Smith, and Cam Newton's over here crying. He's like, "Man, you only rooted for Steve. I thought you liked me."
That's a pretty good one. My Sunday punch is about ESPN. And now we all here probably watch ESPN a large amount, I can assume,
yes,
as most guys do. And we've all come accustomed to this this stigma that they do is where they find a player that they like, and they will show so many highlights, just so many stories about this guy. We see it with LeBron. We
Johnny
saw.
Manziel.
Hey, you beat me to my punch. We see it with Tim Tebow, even though he's not even in the league anymore. They still sometimes do stories about Tim Tebow. You saw Jeremy Lin. In Johnny Manziel's the newest one that they do, and they turned his pro day into a circus. Actually, it was already a circus, but they televised it.
Yeah, they had a 2-hour coverage of him making all of his throws at the pro day.
And let's get this straight.
Manziel?
Let's get this straight.
Man, he wore full pads. Did anyone watch it?
Yes. Did you like that he wore the full pads? Just sidelining
I see
here.
why he did it. I like it and I don't like it.
So do I.
Him wearing the full pads with the dummies in front is to dispel the rumor that he can't with his 5'11" frame see over tall linemen, make the
Yes.
throws, all that stuff as he really is. I mean, clearly he can play in pads, so I thought that was a little weird.
Yeah.
But he wanted to just have that many more inhibitors for his pro day. However, I think it was a little bit like, oh man, now you did it now I got to do it.
Yes.
So that's gonna be kind of like the new standard. It might be. Yeah, he's setting a bad precedent in my opinion. So
I agree.
I think we're gonna.
Here's why I agree. Sorry to cut you off, Zach. But here's why I agree. Johnny Manziel, I think, is the only player here that's really marketing himself, not to the teams, but like to the public, because he knew it was on ESPN. He wore all those pads and all that Nike gear. And what did Nike tweet and put out right after his pro day? You can buy all that gear at Nike.com, the Johnny Manziel collection. He's not trying to impress teams. He's trying to sell merchandise.
Well,
and I don't like that. But I do like him wearing pads because I think he did it to make himself look a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
All the scouts were there. But that pro day, he wasn't even the best player at his pro day. Mike Evans, I think, is still a way better football player than Johnny Manziel. Now, how do you feel about it? Because I think, yes, Manziel escapes the pocket a lot. He makes plays on his feet. But I think, who's the guy catching? Who's the one that has to break off his routes, adjust, get space, and catch all these wild passes that he's throwing? Well, I think Mike Evans is still the best player.
Mike Evans is a great player. The ball had to get there, obviously. But the thing for me with Johnny Manziel, numbers don't lie, and that tape does not lie. So even though
his quality wins,
win a big game.
Hear me out. Win a big game. He beat Alabama.
You take away. Okay, I hate that.
No,
rumor. You take that win away. He had no quality wins that year. He lost to Florida. He lost to LSU at home with bad stats.
All right, so now we're going to go into a bigger discussion in that people put all this weight of quarterbacks on the whole team's performance.
But
let's start with that.
I'm looking at individual performances on those ones.
Did he not play well? He played bad. The only game I think he played personally bad in was the loss to Missouri. He played very bad.
Well, that I was talking 2 years ago, but yeah, this year the Missouri one was bad.
The LSU game
that was bad too.
Okay, but here's my thing. Rebut this. Show me somebody who won the Heisman, came back, and then had a great year again.
Tim
at
Tebow.
Quarterback, throwing the ball. The ball?
Throwing the ball. I mean,
because we all know he ain't throw the ball. And Tim Tebow had a good team around him. That Florida defense was a monster.
Texas A&M before Johnny Manziel, they had one, maybe 2 10-win seasons in the last 20 years, or not 18 years. They won the Big 12 in 1998. Before that, and since then, they won 10 games when they had Von Miller back in 2010.
And Tannehill.
Yeah.
Johnny Manziel, I think was a better quarterback.
Johnny Manziel comes in and wins 10 games twice.
Thank you.
Equals their total. So he takes this program.
Not only that, I'm sorry for cutting you off again, though. When you look at high school recruiting, UT who? And no one cares about it. Like, they stole the show in the Texas market.
Right.
They are the team of Texas right now. They're the hot ticket. Everyone cares about A&M. No one's really looking at UT. TCU is falling off.
Baylor's kind of, I think, with second right now.
Baylor, they really, that UCF game kind of hurt them.
Right.
But they don't get the year-long coverage like A&M did. And to have someone who's that under a microscope week in, week out, day after day after day after day, and even the things that are headaches aren't really that big of a problem.
Right.
You overslept at an auxiliary camp. Like, did that affect
the Manning camp?
But did that affect the team or his play?
No.
Yeah, but he goes out and parties at UT and gets kicked out of frat
Last time I checked, he was still 20.
And he also gets paid for
it's
autographs.
nothing against partying. It's his decisions. Really, you go to a frat at your rival college. That's like us going to one at Eastern.
I think though. Well, I would never be called.
Exactly. Thank you.
No, aside from Eastern, I just don't want anything to do with Portales.
Yeah.
Shots at Portales. But you're right. He makes poor choices. But again, my thing is this: at what point? I think there's too much of this. It's kind of what one of my options for my little rant was going to be about. There's all this. You have all these people who aren't in the situation, trying to set the rules for the situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like I said, he's still a 20-year-old man. How old is he? 21?
21. He's 21.
He's 21. He just turned 21. and he's the leader of this team. He's still going. He's not perfect, but
No.
yet you see other people. Oh, that was a poor decision. He needs to grow up and make. He's 21, dude.
Yeah,
any of us know
but he
what
is the face of his
so
college.
he has to just take that.
He is the quarterback. That's
yeah.
the responsibility of the quarterback. He is the face of his team. He needs to make better decisions than that. You don't see A.J. McCarron going out every night and partying and getting drunk.
He probably does, but he's smart about it.
A.J. McCarron, people aren't also looking to expose A.J. McCarron like that, though, either.
Well,
That's very
Manziel
true.
makes it easy for him.
I was about to say,
No,
I agree that he's a 20-year-old kid, so you have to cut him breaks. But he's also not an average 20-year-old kid.
Right.
He's the most famous 20-year-old kid.
I still think the degree, when you look at all the stuff around him and the microscope that he's under, for him to only have X amount of questionable decisions is still very something to say about that. Because he could be going off the deep end. There are people with no responsibilities losing their mind.
And I think this is back to my Sunday Punch is how ESPN built up these guys.
Right. Yes.
Everyone forgets that his offseason was possibly one of the worst off seasons anyone can have. He got all the partying. Like, I have no problem with him going out to partying, getting kicked out of a frat at UT, getting asked to leave the Manning Academy, getting caught with all the autographs, which he should have been suspended for the whole year, by the way,
not
or at
one
least 3 games.
That was disgraceful on the NCAA for suspending him for only one half.
That's a whole other one. But it's just ESPN pulls these people up. And I like Craig's point there. It's people who aren't in the situation telling the person how they should act. Mm-hmm. I look at the Deshaun Jackson case right now. Everyone's like, "Oh, the Eagles cut him because he's gang related."
No, that
is
not the reason why
Richard Sherman did a good rant about this. He goes, "I'm from the same neighborhood as Deshaun Jackson. We grew up with all the same people. It's in our culture. It doesn't mean we're in a gang. So it's people telling them how to live their lives when they're not anywhere close to their lives."
Yeah, for Deshaun Jackson, he probably does have friends in the gang, but that does not mean he's doing anything with the gang. And I think the Eagles tried to use that. They found that, and they were like, "Oh, he has friends with the gang, so let's just cut him." And I don't like how the Eagles handled that. They cut him because he was part of a gang. And I think that's a poor excuse for it.
I don't. Is that what they said? They can't. That's why
they're saying now it's work ethic and attitude.
I can see that.
I guarantee you they use that gang relation
before we because we're actually going to debate Deshaun Jackson in a minute. Craig had a Sunday Punch, or did we kind of cut into it?
No. I was going to ask you what y'all wanted to hear. I have two. I have a professional one, which is kind of what we were talking about, and then I have my collegiate rant I was meaning to go on.
Collegiate grant?
Collegiate
grant.
Good, better for me because I'm done with the whole college thing, so I can say what I want now.
You're out of here, man.
I'm out of collegiately speaking, my Sunday rant would be, especially in the process of finding talent between big schools and small schools. You have all these I guess it's kind of the nature of the game, and I see how it comes to be this way that, if you don't come from the big-time premier D1 schools, you can't make it as far as you should be, or you can't do this, that, and the other, X, Y, Z. Like, not to put any, added pressure on my good friend Dustin, but I think he's easily one of the top 5 quarterbacks in this draft class.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
But every time you turn around, because it kind of looks weird if you look on Mayock's big board, first off, how's Teddy Bridgewater still at the top of the thing? If you watch his pro day, it was absolutely abysmal.
He struggled.
Don't want to try to call a guy out or anything, but you still, that those should fluctuate.
Yes.
You look at any other position, those positions fluctuate by the day, depending on what they did. So you have people who go out there and have lights out performance, like Jimmy Garoppolo out of Eastern Illinois. You have guys who, just because they played in the system, Derek Carr went to Fresno State. The guy can still play. Things like that. It's kind of this. Oh well, A.J. McCarron went to Alabama and he had X amount of national championships. So clearly he's the better candidate. That doesn't always translate to the next level. And just because a guy goes to a Division II school or a Division III school or anywhere, he went the JC route, he sat out a year of playing ball, whatever it takes. If you can play, you can play. And and that's one of the things, super callback to the beginning of the show when Coach Nesbitt was in here and we talked about having, X amount of scouts, and we beat out a bunch of D1 programs as far as scouts were in attendance. Clearly, if you can play, you can play, and I'm glad that we were able to at least show that, this year, and the trend hopefully will continue. But still, I got the question all the time. throughout when I talk to scouts. Well, how'd you end up here? Well, sometimes you just get passed over coming out of high school. Things happen, and you take what you can get, and you try to make the best out of every situation. But, guys can play everywhere. So just because somebody wears, a golden helmet, and they play in,
Notre Dame or somewhere big
playing,
like that.
Yeah, they're playing at, like you said, Notre Dame, or, they're in South Bend, which is, or you're playing at the big house in Michigan or whatever the case may be. It doesn't make you any better than the guys who are lining up Saturday at 2:00 playing because their stadium doesn't have lights,
Yeah.
So if you can, that would be my rant, is that there's got to be, and I'm glad it's changing in this 24/7. That's one of the upsides of the 24/7 media coverage, that, since we have this always constant, we want more and more and more. You get these guys who normally wouldn't have been found 10, 20 years ago,
right,
are having a shot to actually make it.
And that's a great rant, and I'd like to go a little more into it. Is you said just because they go to smaller schools doesn't mean they can't play. I think you go to the lower level, high school, not everyone gets the same exposure.
Right.
Someone plays at a lower level, they might be able to play, but they don't have the level of competition.
Right.
They don't have the exposure.
One of the best players I've ever seen in person was a guy who went here a little bit. He even transferring. But his name is Jonathan Lindsay. He went to a 6-man school out of
I thought you were about to
Strong.
say John Simpson. I'm like, Juju?
Oh, no. No, he went to a big school out Lancaster. And he obviously got recruited because he was at such a big school. But meanwhile, this guy had to win like 2 state championships at a 6-man school just to get offered to come. The best he could do was a D2 school.
Yes.
And, of course, there are challenges coming from the 6-man game to the 11-man game. That obviously inhibits bigger-time coaches. But, you have guys that – I see it all the time. Guys come from a 5A state championship team, and they got offered just because they were on that team.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you got some guy who's been the workhorse for his, 2A team, and he can't catch a break.
Exactly.
So it's this like – it's almost kind of like a convenience. Like, well, we have a better idea of what we're getting rather than really evaluating the talent. That's one thing I like about here is they're going to evaluate the talent. We're not just going to go pick up somebody from Euless Trinity just for the sake of saying
just because they're from a big school and they do well there doesn't mean they'll do well elsewhere. That's the other part of the high school thing. Just because you did well in high school doesn't mean you're any better than that small school kid.
Yeah, and even guys, when you look at guys going from college to NFL, I've been doing a lot of research into it, and you see a lot of guys sticking around who are undrafted, 7th, 6th, 5th round guys. And you see a lot of these, day 1, day 2 picks that end up fizzling out by the time their first contract's done.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's all about if you can keep playing and if you really have the work ethic. And that's one thing I think a lot of small school guys even have is this, this blue-collar mentality, and that you have to – it's kind of that permanent chip on their shoulder, Because, I was out in Arizona, and I have to explain where West Texas A&M is
every
single time, because I'm sitting with guys who, are like, oh, I went to Auburn, I went to, Mississippi, big schools, big, huge schools. And then I'm like, they're like, oh, well, where'd you go? And I'm like, oh, West Texas A&M. Well, how'd you end up here? Man, because I'm okay at what I'm doing, And
that's when you pancake them, say,
why.
Just
drop them right there in the restaurant, But that's what I guess my rant would be about, is that, and then, like I said, that's one of the perks of this round-the-clock coverage.
Yes. And I also want to bring up that interview that LaCharles Bentley did when he was asked about you. And they asked, well, if he's such a top-tier talent, how did he end up at Division II? You were in a military family, so you had low exposure. So just stuff like that. You're an example of it.
Right.
You probably could have easily been Division I.
I actually, when I was, I didn't take football serious because, like I said, I moved around. I didn't play varsity until my senior year, and we kind of had a policy that only the starters were playing. And I had some good guys in front of me. 3 D1 commits were on the line in front of me.
Wow.
So the year when I was a junior, I just played on JV. And I was like, I'm just going to keep dinking around and playing football. It's fun. Then I coming out of high school, I had talked to a lot of D1 schools, and they were like, well, he doesn't have enough experience. He doesn't have enough experience. We like his size. We like his tape. Yeah. What experience is there to have at 16 and 17, Because even if I have great, high school experience playing in front of 6,000, that doesn't change any – that changes excuse me. It changes drastically once you get in front of 50, 60,000. You're playing on TV against some good competition. You can't gauge that off of, high school. And the same thing here. You can't gauge, someone going just because you played a D2 versus D1, that doesn't necessarily translate to the NFL.
Right.
So, like I said, back to the article, big shout out and thank you to Matt Thornton, the ESPN Dallas writer, for Cover 32. And, of course, my trainer and all of his staff, everyone out in Arizona, LaCharles Bentley, O-Line Performance. I'm thankful to be and blessed to be working with them and have such amazing people in my life and in my career and helping me get to where I want to go.
Absolutely. So that's going to do it for Sunday Punch. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We're going to talk baseball. It actually just started. We're watching Dodgers and Padres on the TV. So we'll go a little bit into that. Oh, no, wait. We have to do our Deshaun Jackson debate. So that's what we'll do.
I mean, we could skip over that.
No, we'll do that because Anthony has been really waiting for that one. So when we come back, we're going to debate Deshaun Jackson, where he should go, where he might end up, stuff like that. So make sure you keep it tuned in. We would like to thank Premier Community Management. Premier offers a variety of services to homeowner associations across Central Arizona and can be found online at premieraz.com. When we come back, more on sportsmanlike conduct and our Deshaun Jackson debate. So make sure you keep it tuned into the station for your generation, the 191.1.
1 FM.
Want to share your opinions with the one? Make sure you call in at 806-651-2911.
The 191.1, the station for your generation.
There's only one station bringing you the best college rock in the Texas Panhandle. It's the station for your generation, the 191.1 FM.
KWTS, the 191.1, the station for your generation.
There's only one station bringing you the best college rock in the Texas Panhandle. It's the station for your generation, the 191.1 FM.
KWTS, the 191.1, the station for your generation.
Do you want to listen to some college rock? Well, good thing, because you picked the right station.
KWTS 91.1 FM.
Welcome back to the 191.1 station for your generation. This is Unsportsmanlike Conduct, two-time defending show of the year right here on KWTS. I'm Sports Director Kaylor Wendt, joined by Assistant Sports Director Anthony Miller on mic 2.
Oh my God, Craig Watts and Coach Nesbitt sat in this chair, and I'm sitting in it right now.
Not only that, Craig broke that chair.
I'm so honored right now.
And then on mic 3, we have Zach Sparkman.
You know, Coach Nesbitt said, give Anthony some of Will Tolliver's scholarship. I feel obligated to take some of future WT running back Jarek Black's scholarship. Is
that how we're doing it now?
Yeah. I was talking to Coach Nesbitt before you got here and about Jarek. He's from my high school. We played together, and I was like, "Yeah, I watched the spring game with him." And he's like, "Yeah, we're glad to have him." And I was like, "You're welcome." It's like, "Oh yeah, I bet you played a hand in that." So I feel like of his full ride, I should get just a smidge of
You
that.
should have a semester paid.
Exactly.
Is that too much to ask for?
I mean, if he makes it big time here and joins, hopefully Craig and Dustin, he's going to be making all the big bucks, and I should just get a little bit now.
Very true. So if you've missed our show up to this point, you've missed a good one. We had Coach Nesbitt and we had Craig Watts on. Very big. We also had Mark Waller in. So we had a lot of people in. First guests of the year.
I'm not gonna lie. I felt kind of claustrophobic with like 6 people in here.
It got hot in here. You had two guys who were like 6'5", 300 pounds.
I thought it was just me just being in this room, but it was all.
It was because we had some gigantic human beings in here. So you missed that. We just got done with our Sunday punches. They were actually very good this week. I liked them a lot. Then we did a kind of debate with Craig, who's always a good, insightful guy. And now we're going to go into another debate. This week, Deshaun Jackson was released by the Philadelphia Eagles for no value, mind you. They just released him out into the wild. So where does Deshaun Jackson end up, you guys? What team is lucky enough to sign the gang member? Just kidding, he's not.
In all honesty, I have no idea. Like, it's such a, because usually when someone gets released, you have several obvious teams matches come to mind. Like Peyton Manning, immediately off the bat, they were saying the Broncos, they were saying the Cardinals, they were saying these teams, and all of them came down to it and eventually signed with the Broncos. And every big free agent, you have the clear front runners. With Deshaun Jackson, they're not releasing very much information. Like Adam Schefter isn't. And you hear he's visiting Washington. You don't know what'll come of that.
Oh, my God.
You've heard that the Jets and Chiefs aren't interested. Now, granted, you know how teams spin stuff.
Yes.
So
We don't know for sure.
Yeah, used to whatever the teams reported. I said that with air quotes for those of you listening. I took that as, that's what it's going to be. So I remember my first kind of taste of hearing coach speak was when the coach at who I'm totally blanking right now. I totally remember this. Coach Gillespie left Texas A&M basketball to Kentucky. He was like, "Nope, I'm happy where I am. I just don't see myself going there." A few weeks later, he's taking the job at Kentucky.
Well, yeah, that's the same thing Chip Kelly did at Oregon. He said, "I'm not going to leave Oregon. This is my home." And then he's like, "Oh, I'm the new Eagles head coach. I'll see you guys later."
So, but assuming that the Jets, everyone says, the Jets need receivers, but also though, you don't want to take all these receivers when you don't know what your quarterback situation's like.
That's very true.
Kansas City would make sense.
Andy Reid reunited.
Yep. And another team, I hear the 49ers being tossed around, but I don't know why.
They can't afford him.
That's the one I really, really like. If he would take a pay cut,
no, he won't. He's arrogant.
Kaepernick, Crabtree, and Bolden, and Frank Gore and Vernon Davis. How do you stop that?
Honestly, I think you're wrong, Zach. I think there are two great spots for him. Unfortunately, they're both out of the running. I really do think the Chiefs and the Jets are the two best spots for him. One for the Jets because Marty Mornwink is the offensive coordinator for the Jets, and he was the Eagles' offensive coordinator for the past 3-4 seasons. So Jackson would already be good with that offense. Plus, he has chemistry with Michael Vick. Plus, he has Eric Decker there, so he'd be taking all the pressure off of each other. And I think, secondly, the Chiefs, because Andy Reid is there, he knows that offense. He knows Reid. Reid has done nothing but praise him. And I think I know that right now Oakland's a big name that they're talking about.
Because that's where he's from.
Yeah. I think it's a good thing and a bad thing. One, if these things with the gang-related activities are true, then that's probably the worst place in the world for him to go to because you're just getting him 10 times closer to it.
Well, first, for the most gang-themed football team.
Yeah, look at the fans.
Exactly.
They're out,
But at the same time, it'd be good for him because they're starting to build that offense. The Raiders just signed Maurice Jones-Drew this weekend to a 3-year deal. Oh. They have James Jones as a receiver. So with Jackson
they also signed Justin Tuck. They signed a lot of guys this offseason.
Oakland has been spending a lot of money, and I think with those weapons offensively and Matt Schaub, who I still think could be a starting quarterback in this league.
Absolutely.
See, that's where I disagree. Now, Matt Schaub, I feel, yes, he can still be an NFL quarterback, but Matt Schaub, Deshaun Jackson's main calling card is his speed.
Yes.
But Matt Schaub does not throw a good deep ball. He is not a very accurate deep. He is more the short, quick West Coast quarterback.
Well, you could do that with Deshaun. He's fast.
Yeah, Deshaun can do that. They ran a lot of
like a Percy Harvin-esque.
Like a lot of under routes. The Eagles ran a lot of those last year. Him and Jason Avant were the big ones that would run those under routes. So Jackson can do that.
Now, so where did you say the best spot was for?
I think Kansas City and the Jets are, but they're both out of it. So if I had to go with the next choice, I'd probably say Oakland. As long as the gang relating things aren't as bad as I think they are.
Who are you saying?
I have no idea the possibilities of this happening. The Panthers are
they can't afford him.
The best spot.
They can't afford him. They couldn't even pay for Steve Smith or Brandon LaFell. They lost all their receivers. How can they afford Jackson?
What I want to know is how are the Panthers so cash strapped?
Thank you. Who are they paying? Like Cam Newton, isn't he still on his rookie deal?
Cam Newton's they signed the defensive lineman.
Was it Charles Johnson they signed?
No, Charles Johnson went to Tampa Bay.
Oh, that's right.
Who?
They didn't sign anybody.
They signed him.
They have a defensive tackle who, at one time before Drew Brees signed his contract, was the highest paid player in the NFL, but I can't think of his name.
Was it Greg Hardy?
No, might have been.
Greg Hardy is on the Panthers.
What?
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah, I think he's the one I know he signed a big contract with the Panthers recently.
But still, Cam Newton's on a rookie deal. So is Luke Kuechly. Running backs, I think they signed D'Angelo Williams to kind of
He's not getting top dollar, though,
Yeah.
so he's not taking up too much space.
But secondary, I can't think of any overly paid guy. I mean, yeah, they say the Panthers are so cash strapped, but I can think of they have one contract, and I can't even think of who's getting it.
Yeah.
But I know it's up there. It's a huge deal. But I think Deshaun Jackson would come in and replace exactly what Steve Smith gave you, because Steve Smith, at the height of his game, which is about where Deshaun Jackson is, he was a guy, you would just put the ball in his hands and let him work. You'd give it to him on reverses. Deshaun Jackson killed on jet sweeps with Philadelphia this year.
Yeah.
Give him the ball in reverses. Cam Newton has a strong arm. You can, work him on posts and stuff like that. And you have a strong run game, so you're going to have to either make defenses choose, do I want to have Jackson blow by me, or do I want to have that extra guy in front run support to stop Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams, Cam Newton.
I agree with you to a point. I think the only problem is he's the only good receiver. So I think everyone will be targeting him. That is the only issue.
Here's the team. I don't know if they'll go after him. They might be one of the 9 teams that called about him. They do need a wide receiver. The Seattle Seahawks. They lost Golden Tate to a big deal.
Him.
Why? What? I think they could.
Deshaun Jackson will.
I think
he is going
could.
to ask for too much money. That's going to be the main. That's why he's not going to be signed within the next week or two.
I think
because he's going to ask for too much money.
I think if he really wants to be the best player he can be, him, Percy Harvin would be dynamic. Russell Wilson in that offense, he would fit right into that.
He signed
culture.
a $40 million deal with the Eagles 2 years ago, and then last offseason he started complaining about it. He's like, "Hey, can I have more money?" And the Eagles are like, "Are you serious right now?"
He'd be so good.
That's
in
why
Seattle.
that's partly why he got cut, because he's asking for too much money.
He'd be so good there, though.
Yeah, but Deshaun Jackson is arrogant. I mean, in the 6 years he's been with the Eagles, I know him. He has been arrogant as hell.
If he goes for the money, I can see the Washington Redskins paying for him. I can see I think he won't say it in public, but I'm pretty sure he's stung and hurt by the Eagles.
If he goes to Washington,
and they need a red receiver,
I think if Jackson goes to Washington, I think the Redskins have a good chance of winning that division. I'm scared.
RG3 with an offensive-minded coach. You have Pierre Garçon, who, if healthy, is a very good wide receiver.
Santana Moss still has one good year in him. Alfred Morris.
They signed Andre Roberts, who's a very good wide receiver that was in Larry Fitzgerald's shadow for a long, long time. So, I mean,
that team
it's
is
not
dangerous.
too far-fetched.
If he goes there, I'm scared about playing the Redskins.
Far-fetched isn't a word. I don't know why I said it. I don't know. That was an awkward thing. But we have 5 minutes left in the show. It kind of snuck up on us here. So we'll go. Has anyone looked at anything for Out of Bounds? Because I do have one.
I have one too.
You can go first.
Well,
I'll let you go first because that's what gentlemen do.
Okay. Way to make that awkward. But anyway, my story is that in New Jersey, a man just
no, dang it, I should have gone first.
Yes. Well, anyway, he just got out of prison. He spent a 15-year sentence for robbing a children's shoe store. So what do you think the first thing he does is? He goes right to that same shoe store and robs them again. He steals, cell phones. He took cash out of the drawer, which was $389, and he fled on foot.
Dang it.
I mean, really? 15-year sentence, the first thing you do is go right back to where you got arrested and steal from the same place. Dude's an idiot. That's all I'm saying.
That was such a good one. Now I have to find another one. Do you have one, Zach? Or
I do not.
It snuck up on you?
But, yes. That Panthers player who is making so much money is Charles Johnson. He is due.
That's what I thought.
That's what I thought. $8 million.
Who's the one that just signed
Larry Johnson.
No, the one from the bank.
Yeah.
Michael Johnson.
Michael Johnson.
Yeah.
Told you, Kaylor. Someone
he
know.
He is due.
Hey, I was a Johnson.
An $8 million base salary with a $7 million bonus and a $16 million cap hit.
That's their problem right there.
But other than that, last year he only had an $8 million cap hit. Johnson did. But so you have one guy, Cam Newton's on a rookie deal. I guess more than anything, they're trying to save space for when Newton's
Newton is going to be expensive.
Because the Panthers had the 20.
I don't know. He's off an injury.
The Panthers had the 26th highest.
Are you kidding me, Kaylor?
Payroll
he's
last year.
He's going to be the highest paid quarterback in the league, if not top 3 at least.
Okay, well, here's my Sunday punch because we only have 4 minutes. Mine is, this is the headline, alleged drunk man wanders on Dallas airport tarmac. And so what happened is a drunk passenger somehow gets off of his plane and starts wandering around the tarmac. This brings up so many questions. First of all, how did he get off the plane? Like I'm trying to figure this out. Like how do you just walk off the plane if you're drunk? Like if you've ever been on a plane, they like usher you like to make sure that you're going the right way.
I had a nickel for every time that happened to me. Yeah.
2, how did he get on the tarmac? Like is no one just being like, "Hey, look, there's a guy walking out there." I'm just so lost and baffled on how this guy got out there. So it's all very confusing. So that's going to do it for our show. Let me get the cool drums ready. We can do our final thoughts.
So nothing on the toe sucker, Zach?
I guess
he was caught last week.
He got locked up, so there's not really.
You need to keep updates on that every week.
You should start a blog called Toe Suckers. No, call it Toe Jam. Call it Toe Jam.
Oh, that would be an interesting blog. I guess there'd just be that one guy. You don't hear of many toe suckers or toe related crimes. I could put Rex Ryan up on there. You know what? I'm gonna leave you for the week on that, and I'm not gonna say another word. I'm gonna
very smart.
Rex Ryan and his toe jam.
The toe jam. Anthony, what's yours?
I'm actually gonna do a serious one here. This week. April is coming up, and this month for April is Autism Awareness Month. And those of you who don't know, I have autism, so this month is very special to me. And I think Wednesday, April 2nd, is World Autism Awareness Day. So just as a small favor for me, if everyone can wear blue on that day, that is the color for autism awareness. Yes, blue. That would be fantastic. It's a month that means a lot to me. So... yeah, and also go Buffs, go Lady Buffs.
Support it, very good. First off, my final thought, I would like to thank Coach Mike Nesbitt and Craig Watts and Mark Waller for joining us here. Craig's always a great interviewee, so is Coach Nesbitt. Just gives you gold every time you interview him. But pretty much just finals are coming up, just got to power through. Just make sure on Tuesday you guys bring something for my birthday. If not, you're both fired. The pressure's on now. We'll see what you guys get.
So I guess
I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see